on Instagram as well. Boom. Here we are. Are we even in life anymore?
Oops.
You got to close doors in this world now because you don't know what weird energy is going to come in. That's my main message for the horoscope this week. Part of it's channeled. Part of it is also the astrology that we are seeing right now. In your own life, you're really going to have to be very wary of who you allow into your life. These are weird times where this was not planned either. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was not. I didn't have the door open on purpose, but it really is times where just the smallest crack in your energy right now can let energy you don't want to have in. And I think it's going to be important with this new moon in Aries to be able to, get up and take the action and close some of the doors with this dark moon in Pisces this week. We're also seeing Venus and Pluto making a square, but Venus and Jupiter coming together in a nice sextile for a nice wish, although it is a detriment Venus. But I feel that, the Pluto energy is important for us to pay attention to because it is the last energy that is in Capricorn. We've seen the most amount of Capricorn in 2020 we will ever see in our lives, ever. And so I think that it's very important for us to note that, the structures of your own life, your own destiny, you still are trying to get to the bottom of. I mean, since 2008, when Pluto entered Capricorn, this world has been changing. It wasn't like 2020 was this great world change. It was built on the back of the 12 years prior, ironically enough, when Jupiter was in Capricorn and moved to Aquarius, was when we also saw Pluto come into Capricorn. So having Jupiter in Aquarius and getting ready to speed its way into Pisces for a moment this year and retrograde there, there's a lot that just brings up about Pluto and Capricorn. And to see Venus this week square it, and to see this new moon that's happening while we're seeing Mars square Neptune, you have to be very aware of your surroundings, because Mars in Gemini, it's a lot like the car that you're driving. And instead of being in your subconscious and just driving, you want to also you don't want to be fiddling with the radio, and then the next thing you know, you look up and there's somebody coming in your lane and it's just a 2-lane highway, and oh no. This is those moments when you get too sensitive or you get too naive about what's going on in your world and in the cosmos or in life right now, that Mars square Neptune is a big smack in the face. It's always a smack in the face that has to deal with, unfortunately, your subconscious, you not paying attention. And this is all while the moon in Pisces is going to be going dark, with it being on top of Neptune. I mean, this is really weird, because as the moon and Neptune align together in Pisces, will be right when Mars is squaring Neptune in the moon. And so it feels like a great rush still of energy going on with all the planets direct and all of them fast, and Mercury almost as fast as 2 degrees this week. I mean, Mercury is flying by. And we're going to see Mercury and Chiron this week. There's a lot that this is telling me, that this is a lost energy mixed with this determination to have a better life, to have things go better, but making sure that we're not pushing away things that make sense, or that we're also getting rid of common sense in where we're going. Because I feel that this Aries new moon on Sunday, it's in alignment with Mars, really good. So to have a sun exalted with a sextile to Mars this week is very positive about us being able to change our lives and go towards the things that bring the curiosity out. They bring the things in life that we're really, stimulated about, and the changes that we want to make. But that Neptune thing it's a rough one, because Neptune is at its home sign. So even though you can look at Mars in the North Node, you can look at the Sun exalted, even at its exalted position, 19 degrees this week, you can be really excited about these things. And there's a lot of things to be exciting about. But when you have Neptune in its home sign and it's squaring Mars, it takes a lot of that like ego, that direction, that drive. And with Mercury and Chiron, it brings us to a really weird place of like, there are things in life that spirit doesn't want us to go through. And it can be these big, what look like walls that pop up, but they're more, kind of a smackdown in a weird way from spirit of like, you're not paying attention, or, and even though Neptune's compassionate and Mars is not, it's kind of humbling is a good word. So I think that it's a great time, and we're on these last weeks left of all the energy direct forward, and you can already see the fear mongers out there in the world already preparing you for their story of what they're going to fear us with, right? And scare us with. But I do want to stress that, after this new moon, what's really left? Mars is getting ready to come into Cancer. It's going to try Jupiter in the weeks ahead, and that's about it. Sun's going to come into Taurus and go through the Saturn-Uranus square, while Mars is in Cancer, its weakest sign. Let's not forget the retrogrades. At the end of this month, we have Pluto coming retrograde. So, time is of the essence, but common sense is important, and humbling yourself to what you really need. Like, this is where we almost kind of can try and overpromise Jupiter, Venus, thinking we can do everything, thinking we can have everything. And I think that this is going to be a humbling moment of going, like, where do I really sit with myself? What do I really like? What do I really want? Where do I really want to go? And we can be very optimistic about so many things, but we have to narrow that field. And that's the message that just keeps coming through. And it's going to come through pretty hard this week with that Neptune square to Mars. And at the same token, Mercury and Chiron also realize, you have to understand your environment and your world. And since the dispositor of the North Node being in Gemini is Mercury, and Mercury's on Chiron, we don't have to hold on the weight of the life that we don't want to live anymore. And we don't need to put ourselves in places to where either A, we're going to feel more spiritual, or we're going to prove something to people. Because if we're going to try and prove things to people, that's, I think, the greatest subconscious issue. I'm going to use an example and might trigger people. It's like how celebrities create this whole entire facade of how much they want to help by what they give to charities. Is it really about the charity, or is it really just about saying they put some money forward and they care about it? And it's a good write-off for them, but at the same time, it's more of their own benefit. Or, there's a lot of, and people who aren't celebrities do it all the time too. It's like more about the Instagram picture now helping some family out in Africa than it is about actually going out there and helping. And I think that using that as an analogy into your own life, where are you doing that to yourself? Like, where are you and yourself going, oh, you know what? I'm going to go do this because this is what I feel like people will like me to do. Because this Aquarius and Aries get along, but only if the individual and the identity and your own happiness comes first. The idea of trying to put everybody else first instead of yourself first in every worldly study and just common sense in the world never works. And that's why these are very confusing times, because that's not common sense. You know, a lot of people like to use the expression, of course, on an airline, you know, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. I'd rather use the pilot. If there was somebody in the back throwing up because they had air sickness, I think the pilot's going to get out of its seat and put it on auto and not pay attention to what's going on, where the flight's going, because he's going to run back there and make sure somebody's okay? No. You know, I do a lot of road trips. Some people have to go pee. Just happens. Of course, I'm compassionate about them having to go pee, but when I'm towing a 44-foot fifth wheel in my F450 and I'm as big as a semi-truck and I'm 13 feet 8 inches tall, I just can't get off and go to a normal gas station, let alone just go down normal streets. I have to use a Trekker app that lets me know what streets I'm allowed to go to and what bridges I can fit under and so forth. So sometimes I will pull off the side of the road. That's common sense because there's enough space, and just say, hey, just go into the RV. Just get out of the truck and go in the RV and go pee. But sometimes there's not space. But I learned a lesson once on my tour in 2018. Like, everybody had to go pee, and I did the whole, I'm going to put everybody before myself right now. And we got stuck in I forgot what state we were in. And we got stuck in this grass that was so deep, and the ledge to the concrete was so deep that when we tried to get out of it, it smashed my truck bed. And my last RV I had, the truck bed went up into the RV, and you know, I had a brand new truck and it was a brand new RV, and I was just like, fuck, it was like fucking $15,000 worth of damage when I already knew. And I should have just for 5 more minutes just said, you know what? Everybody's just gonna have to wait 5 more minutes. I'd rather have you pee in your pants and clean that up than go through the stress and the hour that we lost on the road because of just trying to get out of a grass area that it was pitch black so we couldn't see. So, you know, this idea and notion right now to start doing things because we all want to do our best to do the highest for the greatest good, but the highest of the greatest good is when we know how to show up for ourselves and what we really want in our lives. And we can hurt more people in the long run by doing things that we really don't want to do, that we overpromise or that we over try to do. And we're going to have a very deep conversation with ourselves and God this week because of this dark moon and these times. And it's in Pisces, and it's dealing with our soul and our identity. And this is a very interesting combination of things with Mars squaring Neptune, but Mars in great aspect with the sun that's exalted. It kind of balances itself out. So I'm not too worried about it, but I think that a lot of this has to deal with, more importantly, you having to go deeper inside and going, am I really putting myself in the best position I can? Or am I trying to do something because I feel like either others with Jupiter and Venus in sextile are telling me to do this, or are you having your Pluto in Capricorn that's trying to smack Venus? And this is what's going to be hard is, there's 2 ways to look at this. One, knowing your constitutional rights as a soul of your own constitution, of your destiny. This is my path in my life, and I'm not going to, you know, like give up on that path or give up parts of that path in order to quickly find a positive feeling. While with Jupiter, you know, giving up your own individual way just to please a bunch of people. You know, it reminds me of what we're seeing with corporations right now in this whole woke revolution. I hate to say it. It's not woke at all. It's actually quite, when you look at the Mars and Gemini, in the North Node of Gemini, and you actually look at the facts, you know, I just think it's funny for like the MLB to leave Atlanta for voting laws that are the same voting laws in Colorado and actually worse. And I can go on for that one for an hour, but you know, it just like, it makes no sense at the end of the day. And then you just see people on TV trying to jump on the bandwagon. So there's a lot of this finalization coming here before all these planets come retrograde, and we're not going to have any more forward energy this year. And we're coming close to the end of this. And so you really have to take that moment now in your life and go, am I a bandwagoner? Or am I somebody that finds commonality in people who see things from a common sense point of view and actually are willing to take that Pluto and Scorpio, or Pluto and Capricorn risk, which is very Scorpionic because it is Pluto, and be willing to make a change to stay on course to, at the end of the day, what is real integrity. Because what I'm seeing today in the world and what people are trying to push is not integrity, it's more of a belief system. It's like a cult. Because with the South Node in Sag, we deal with cults. We deal with religious aspects. We deal with belief system aspects. And they're usually based around a cult. And it's very cultish is what we see right now. You know. And it's kind of sad. You know, because people are afraid to be their own self. So that's a trickle-down theory. And if anybody doesn't believe in trickle-down theory economics, there's also a trickle-down of life. If you start seeing corporations and the government start singing the same tune, what else do you think trickles down into the collective, into the social aspects? We're dealing with Aquarius. This is social aspects. And why do you think Uranus and Taurus is squaring Saturn, which this moon, by the end of this week after this new moon, is going to go right over that Uranus squaring Saturn. Saturn's now at 12 degrees, and it's staying there at 12 degrees for a long time, months and months and months, before it comes retrograde in May. And Uranus is going faster. And so the Uranus square Saturn that's coming is going to be different. The second pass here is Uranus is going to square Saturn as it's transiting forward. So it's going to be a lot more impactful, I feel. And to go into Uranus Saturn a little bit more, I mean, you know, the idea that the collective and Saturn is business and governments and stuff, it's not crazy and it's not a conspiracy to actually look at the astrology and say that these organizational, corporate-y / governmental aspects are against the people. Yet they use the people and they use certain groups of people to make them feel woke and to make them feel that they care. But they don't care because they segregate most of everybody else. And Uranus is not about segregation, it's about inclusivity. And inclusivity is something that is very hard to determine in a world that is creating fragmentation as unity. Like the idea now that you can't say that everything in one matters, you know, to me blows my mind in an Aquarius world. And I'm actually a Leo, right? So I'm not the best at inclusivity, right? Like, you know, I'm not. Like, I'm a Leo, right? I focus on my own self first all the time, right? But there's something to say about the sun that's exalted and it's dominant in fire signs of Leo and Aries. Leo is the home of the sun, and Aries is the exaltation point. Why do we celebrate Easter in Aries? You know, it's that birthing and the right and the identity of, if you want to come from a Christ-like form, of the birth of the Christ itself, the Christ-like energy in many ways, and the risen energy, not Jesus, but it's still identified. And you can't live this life. You can't even know that. What is this? This is a jewel. This is a jewel, and it's the silver one, and it's got the menthol in it. Because guess what? What comes first? Person, place, or thing? A noun. And we're in a world of verbs. I want to be happy. I want to have a good year. Okay? Have a good year doing what? Be happy doing what? And that's the problem with where we're at in this astrology in this new moon. Because with Mars squaring Neptune, this is where also the delusion and the illusion, and especially with Neptune that's been in semi-square to Uranus, with Neptune at 21 degrees and Uranus at 10, we're coming off that square. But it was embedded into us for the last couple of years. And I think it's important for people to really realize that, you know, this is not a time for you to get lost into the idea of this spiritual narrative, because the spiritual narrative is not identified. Pisces is not identified. It is what feels holy and what feels divine, and it's inclusive in all ways, and it's not out to try and prove itself either. And so if you're going to use this energy to try and go prove yourself, you're going to be humbled, you know. And especially you're going to be humbled in a way if you're trying to do things because you think you get caught up, because Mars squaring Neptune is always a trap. We all put ourselves in some sort of subconscious trap. Like, fuck. It's like being stuck in the mud. Like, I didn't want to get my car dirty, but everybody else took that way, and they were trying to look cool, and they were trying to get mud on their truck. So I decided to go in there, but I'm in a little Toyota two-wheel drive. Like, I should have been in a Ford fucking four-wheel drive, a Raptor. And I don't have that. And this is where it begins, or everybody keeps picking at, they have this, I don't have this. Venus in sextile to Jupiter starts feeling like, well, everybody can have what everybody should have. And I believe that. But that Pluto squaring it is like, yeah, but those who do the work, those that put all that energy in time, are going to be at different places in life of the ladder, right? Like, we're not going to go put a 5-year-old and sign them up for AARP cards and let them order off the senior menu. They have a kids menu with crayons. I don't think they would want liver and onions. Unless there's some crazy kids out there that I don't know about that fucking love liver and onions. Do you know any fucking kids that like liver and onions? I definitely don't. I think Doug on the cartoon when I was a kid on Nickelodeon liked it. Or his little friend, whatever the friend's name was.
I definitely hated it.
Hmm?
I definitely hated it. Disgusting.
I can tell you I never spent one fucking time ever fucking even attempting liver and onions as a kid.
No.
So these are complicated aspects, but they're not, because it's simple. It's Mars. It's Aries. It's the sun. It's Mars. Like, Neptune is saying, allow your soul to be you. And you will connect with all things in the universe if you are you and you are fully embedded in you, and you don't do things and put yourself in traps that you subconsciously really don't want to do, and make believe in yourself that you can do it. Especially because you feel like you have to, or, you know, this is the best way to be woke in some weird fucking way. You know, do you think anybody's keeping score? The only people keeping score are those that are mean, angry, and losers. Because this is not some sort of game. And that's where we're at right now, is there are people that are keeping a score because they don't know how to do it themselves. So they would be scorekeepers. Or maybe they used to be, like in baseball or basketball or any sport. Scorekeepers usually played the game for long enough to where they can't play anymore, but they keep score, and they are doing it for the love of the game. But we're seeing a bunch of scorekeepers right now that never played the game. And they found a position, and they're being thrown up in the world as people to listen to, as if the credit score, you know, it blew my mind about this social credit score thing going on in China, and how with all this Aquarius and all this Aries and all this weird Mars square Neptune stuff, this whole entire time our social media has been our social credit score. Ironically, when Pluto went into Capricorn in 2008 was when we saw the end of MySpace and the beginning of Facebook. Changed the social Because you know what? The credit score of MySpace was how good how cool was your MySpace? It really wasn't about friends, because at the end of the day, sure, there were some people that had a lot of friends. And Tom obviously was a big friend, but everybody was friends with Tom unless you deleted Tom. I don't remember if you could delete Tom. But Tom definitely wasn't on my top 8 friends. You know what I mean? And it was about how cool you individually did your MySpace, was what you were determined by as cool. That's why I liked MySpace, because it was not blank Facebook page with a picture and everybody was the same. So everybody in every system always finds a hierarchy. So what happened on Facebook? Well, how many friends do they have? How many people are following them? And then guess who buys Instagram in 2012 with all the Gemini stuff going on, and the Venus retrograde and the dark moon that was in an eclipse? Facebook goes public. And now if you notice, the social credit score is based upon the friends, the family, the governments, the people around you, about what you post. And you see it more, of course, in cults like Ivy League or Scholastic, South Node Sag stuff, of like, that person's incompetent if they posted anything regarding questioning the left. You see it on the right too, though. Anybody who posts anything about the left is just woke. And so this is something that we all have to look at, because I know it depends on what side of the spirituality you're on. There's a side of the spirituality right now that is like holding the same old school like way of like, before I just fall for this, let me make sure this is really cool with God. Right? So it's okay to question with North Node and Gemini everything. And that's where there's a lot of people who are aligning more against the left, because of course of the fact that there's questioning, which actually it's so weird, because usually the right per se is not, it's a conservative, and it really kind of holds its own values, and it never fucking fails, and it's not very neocon, right, to be liberal, yet now it's a neocon liberal world. Like now you hear the left looking like it was 2002, 2003 all over again about everything. Now they really want to care about, all these kind of crazy things, right? So it's all flipped. And I could tell you, it was like funny, like last night yesterday I posted about my teeth. And I had a procedure done to fix my gum disease, and I was going to change my teeth up a little bit, and I'm not going to be able to until I fix my gums first. So it wasn't the easiest thing. And I have no fucks given, right? Like when I go post something, whether it's that, I was in the bathroom showing people with blood in my teeth and fucking showing people like, look at this, right? Like, I don't care, or I'll put up everything about the shot in the arm and how I just think, like seeing the Run DMC ad, seeing Morgan Freeman telling you yesterday, oh, you know what? I believe in science, but you know what I heard? And he looks to the left. Look at the video. I heard that everybody trusts me. So I guess if everybody trusts me, then go get it. It's like, what? That motherfucker ain't thinking about anybody. That motherfucker ain't thinking about anybody but himself. And by the way, a bunch of that money is being paid to all the actors that have no jobs. By the God, we're all paying these actors that had no jobs to push what the government wants. And so people got to be very careful with Mars square Neptune to not let the narrative of propaganda, Neptune is propaganda, determine your identity. Which could be very hard to do in these times. Very, very, very hard to do. And the good news, if you can understand the noun that you are, the individual that you are, the uniqueness of the individual qualities that you possess in yourself, that you define through your own self, and that you identify with as a person, and that you're not trying to prove something to anybody else but yourself, this new moon will set you off in the right place. You don't go do things that you don't want to go do is better than doing things that you don't want to go do. And because Venus is in alignment with Jupiter, but it's squaring Pluto, this is going to bring up a lot of relationship things. Like there's this door open, but Pluto is also very intrusive. And also at the same time, it could be very, blocking. And so what are you allowing in? And what do you really want to allow in? There's a great wish, but be careful what you wish for this week. Because you want to get it on point with who you are. And we're not going to see Mars in the North Node for 18 years in Gemini, and we're definitely not going to see it with a new moon in perfect sextile in Aries. So, we have an exalted sun. We have a Mars with the North Node. We have a lot of great aspects. But we do have a Saturn square Uranus still. And the collective and this kind of woke narrative is not, it doesn't sit right. You know why it doesn't sit right? Because it's not right. There's too many people on the planet for us to poll how we all feel about it. We just have to take what the propaganda says is, oh, most people feel this way. Well, okay, you took 1,000 people and I don't know. Maybe there are thousands of people that are just sitting at home and really enjoy this CV world and enjoy sitting in their home with a mask on. And they enjoy that. And they are sitting by the phone and they are willing to give whatever answer that they want that feels like it fits the narrative because it finally gave them a cult. It finally gave them a group to associate with that likes them for following the protocol. Which in many ways actually is really sad and laughable. Because if you were to actually just, let's say 5 years ago, take that narrative, anybody who would follow all that, you'd be like, why are you such a follower? It's like Teletubbies. Or it reminds me of, what were those little fucking dolls? TY or that everybody had that they thought were going to be worth so much money?
Oh, Beanie Babies?
Beanie Babies? I better go get a Beanie Baby because everybody has a fucking Beanie Baby. Yeah, I'm sure those Beanie Babies are really fucking doing well with all the dust and all the fucking mites that are in them right now in your fucking rafters. I'm going to answer a question that some people want answered. And this one's hard because it affects people in my personal life. People have questions about this shot. And they go, well, my job, it makes me. What am I supposed to do? Go find a new job and change my whole life and all that stuff? The divine has a really good plan for those that follow their own gut of what they really want. And if you have a job out there in the world that's forcing you to get something that you actually don't want because you wouldn't ask that question, I wonder what it would be like on the other side if you actually did try to see if there was something else out there for you. Maybe it's the universe saying that maybe you need to look another direction and be curious more instead of just believe everything will be fine and I just got to do this thing, because that's what the poor part of South Node and Sag is about. I'll end with this because it's personal. Most people know this story. Some people don't. But I'll give it from a different perspective. And it's kind of hard because when I got kicked out of the military and I popped my piss test for weed, And I was young. I was 18, I was 19, and I got an other than honorable discharge. And there was something inside of me after watching Loose Change and working on F-18s and being a plane captain and the vibe of the military at the time and going to war and all that stuff, that I just knew in my soul that it wasn't my path. And so I was looked at as crazy to be, I had 5 more, because I signed a 6-year deal. So I had like 4 more years left to do in my service. And I also am not like some sort of fraud that's going to go make something up. Because back then in the service, basically, if you said you were gay or something, you could get out. And I wasn't going to lie. So I just didn't go to work. I went AWOL, and I ended up paying the price for it. And I went to military prison for it. And I remember my family at the time had to deal with the government showing up at all my family's houses in uniform. Put it this way, there's not a lot of people that the government are looking for when in the middle of a war. Most people are going to the war and yada, yada, yada. And so at the time, I remember following my heart and being like, gosh, as I'm going to the court-martial and I'm facing, 5+ years and possibly going to Leavenworth. And there was something inside of myself that went, as long as I'm just doing what I know is in my heart and I'm doing, I'll be fine. And I only got 30 days and 25 days of good, behavior. I got an other than honorable, not a dishonorable. And I served my time and I got out. And I remember the week I got out, my mom, had called me from base, and she's like, what are you going to do with your life? And I'm like, I'm going to go. Because it was a relief. To be honest with you, it was a relief. And it was like, everybody asked me, were you afraid to go to prison in the military? I was like, fuck no. I think I go serve 25 days and I'm out. Opposed to 4 more years of doing something I don't want to do. And it was during this same nodal transit, North Node in Gemini. And that I joined the military, went to boot camp, and I was the leader in boot camp, and I was the head of my class and jumped to E3 by the time I was only 3 months in the military. I was just one class away from being a petty officer. And I at 18. But the best part about that was I came to a place in my life to where I looked in the newspaper, and my mom was getting my mom was making changes in her life, so I didn't have go home to mom and figure out my life and sit there and right, most people kind of get that at 19. I had to go. I looked in the newspaper, and I looked at a million jobs, and I'm like, I don't like this job, and I remember there was one job, and it said assistant parts manager at boat dealership. It said work on the beach. And I'm like, oh, I love boats. I go to Havasu all the time. They do wakeboard boats. They do cruisers. I've been in the ocean my whole life. I know boats. I worked in the Navy. I was, and I remember, and you can ask anybody that worked at Action Boats. When I showed up there, I came in a full, suit at this boat yard with 200 boats on it. And the owner gave me or actually it was the parts manager at the time, gave me the interview. And then my best friend, who was one of the mechanics there, they all looked at me like, who's this priss-ass bitch walking in here? And anyway, they were like, well, maybe that might be good for around here. So they hired me. Within 2 weeks, I became the parts manager because the parts manager was a Harley guy and didn't want to do boats, and he wanted to do Harleys. And so they gave me the part that the owner looked at me and he goes, hey, and he was the service manager. He goes, hey, are you ready to take on this whole department on your own? I'm like, 19 years old, just kicked out of the military. By the way, in that first week of me working there, I admitted I got kicked out of the military. And then one of the mechanics is like, oh, so did I. And long story short, I took on that department and I turned it from yellow pads full of parts There was like 28,000 parts in that parts department, and put it all on the computer in 2004 when nobody was doing that yet. And like, I think I like five times 5x the amount of money that place made in a month. And I had a gas card, I had a cell phone, I had a salary, and I was making commission on my sales in a month. At 19 years old, I was making more money than most people make. Whatever. And I was living in Newport Beach, and I was raving every day, and I found my whole rave calling and promoting and DJing, and was doing astrology. And I never would have gotten on this path unless and in my case, it's a lot crazier, right? If I don't choose to do this war thing and do this military thing anymore that I have a contract with, I go to jail. I was willing to do that because it wasn't in alignment with who I was, and it took me to the right path. So anybody right now, and this is the kind of energy that is really based upon right now. So when people try to give me the excuse any time, I at least have the receipts to be like, oh, really? You might have been there for I don't even care how long, but there's always something out there that you really want to do that won't pressure you to be something that you don't want to be. And I can say that not as an astrologer, not as any, not even as an ex-military, right? I can tell you that as a human being that had a lot of repercussions for going the direction that they told you weren't allowed to do. And if you don't do it, that you're going to go to jail. And I chose that, and I ended up here. And ironically, on the 10th, this Saturday, the day before this new moon coming, is the exact day that I started the daily video horoscope. So it'll be 9 years that you all have been watching me doing this daily video thing. Of course, the daily video eventually, because I have a moon in Taurus and I know value, there had been no astrologer in the world that ever created an app and also sold daily video horoscopes. People had sold daily written horoscopes that you subscribe to on websites like astro.com and tarot.com and stuff like that. But nobody had created an app, and nobody had done daily video horoscopes for pay. And I'm the first person, and still to this day have led the way and still do that. But I have shown up every day except for the 8 days I was sick in 2020 in February. I've shown up every day. And I would have never got here if it wasn't for you all, but the story prior to you all was, in these times that we're in now, and where we're in the flip, in the same sorrow cycle of the eclipses, if I would have gone against my will, against my sovereign soul, against my true self, I truly would not ever have gotten on this path. I would have never inspired as many people that I didn't realize I've inspired to even go on YouTube and be a tarot reader or be an astrologer. And anybody ever trying to tell me that I can't because I'm in this job or I'm in this place in my life, or I can't get out of this relationship I hate because I fucking hate it and but I made this, or I have a kid, or I have this, or Oh boy, I don't know how to say it, and I'm not giving you the astrology on this one. I'm saying it from personal experience and factual common sense, is that the world is your oyster. And we are being told that the world is not your oyster. We're being told to clam it up and to do what everybody else wants us to do. And that is not how Aquarius works, because it eventually ends in rebellion. It eventually ends into individuality and freedom. And any astrologer out there who will not cover that as Aquarius is not an astrologer. They're not an astrologer. Because you know what? They have chosen the cult over the astrology. And I hate to say it, but there's a ton of astrologers out there who will not talk about individualism, freedom, individual rights. And this is not because about American. I'm talking about everybody in Europe, Africa, China, everywhere in the world. That Aquarius represents freedom, individuality, and uniqueness first. It's the only planet in our solar system that said, I don't want to be like every other planet and look this way. I'm going to turn 180 degrees around and I'm going to sit on my side. And I'm going to have my ring go around upside down. Like what, everybody's like, what the fuck? And it's still part of the solar system. And Uranus chose to be the only planet that said, you know what? I'm going to be just out of reach of being able to be seen by eyesight. So any astrologer out there right now trying to push this woke fucking bullshit narrative out there is not an astrologer. Because all that woke shit is forcing you to go away and identify yourself as their fucking agenda, as their fucking thing. Jupiter and Saturn did not meet at 0 Aquarius on December 21st of 2020 to have you fall for that shit. Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter is a dark force. It is the biggest crime against humanity of all time for control. And I have the receipts that I was saying that fucking a long time ago. So here it is, folks. This is a new moon. And you know what? Have fun with your IG new moon people who are like, this is a great time for resetting and putting like little bullet points. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the bullet point of Instagram astrology. I'm sick of the fucking bullshit. Let's put astrology out there like it's just some... Like, are we going to a fucking woman's meeting about fucking giving out makeup tutorials about some fucking fly-by-night, like, multi-level marketing MLM fucking thing? That's the astrology that's out there now. And the worst part of the men are doing it now. It's sad because I watch, there's only a couple astrologers that are men that I admire because they hold their truth and they hold their own. The others? Oh boy. They don't want to be men. And they don't want to fucking give you fucking your empowerment through you making your own choices. And they want to push propaganda on you from the fucking media. And they don't want to fucking be men anymore. They want to all be like some woke version so they can have their other astrologers scratch them on the back to get them on their little fucking shows that are fucking nothing. Nothing. And I think being an astrologer is something on my 9-year anniversary of doing it every day. I was doing it before, but I kind of give it like the whole where I gave it my all and never went backwards into any other job or any other thing 9 years ago, this April 10th. And you can look up my first horoscope, April 10th, 2012, and you can follow every day. But leading the people with astrology to slaughter, in my eyes, in this moment, is the biggest injustice I've ever seen in astrology of my life. And none of them will show you vulnerability. None of them will show you the truth of their story. They will just push whatever they can and not risk anything because they're too afraid of losing what little they already have. And the true testament in these times for everybody, including myself and any astrologer out there, is you should be able to not be afraid to risk everything for individuality, for freedom, and for allowing people to identify themselves through their own uniqueness. And, you know, blacklisting astrologers now is a really hot thing to do. I'm blacklisted. The astrology community won't have me involved. Even when I helped build one organization, they won't have me back on. Or wouldn't support me when they had some crazy liberal fucking trying to connect me talking about Venus and Saturn during Brett Kavanaugh hearings as if I was supporting some narrative when I wasn't even talking about anything. They just made that up in their own head. And you know what? I'm going to continue on my journey. All of us at High Vibe, we're going to continue on our journey of allowing people to be their high vibrational self. And High Vibe or spirituality or astrology or anything is not a narrative. It is not a cult. It is not a thing that you do. And when you start seeing all these cult-like energies come out there, be very careful. Because that's what's... You either are individually empowering yourself at this time, or you are adding gasoline to the cult that you are choosing of a belief system to follow. And you are not being hermetic. You are not looking at the facts. You are not looking at both sides. You are not weighing out what's going on in the universe. You're unable to see propaganda. You're unable to feel what's true because you don't know how to make a true choice because you'd rather have other people make it for you. And if you're going to choose anybody in the world out there to make it for you, that person should only be advocating for your individuality and your choice of choosing your own life and you choosing your own way and you choosing your own way and giving you the ammunition and giving you the love and giving you the power to be that. And never trying to have you be a certain thing or do a certain thing or take a certain thing in order for you to comply. Because the only thing in astrology to comply to is what the planets are saying. That's it. And when the planets are saying uniqueness and freedom, and it's in square to Uranus and Taurus, Saturn right now, from being in Aquarius, and Uranus and Taurus is saying that the only thing that you need to keep advancing and connecting to in Taurus is your sovereignty, your values that are uniquely yours, not everybody else's values. When Saturn's squaring it and trying to control you through using cult-like, very weird, because I love Jupiter. But Jupiter was in Capricorn last year. It was with the South Node. Now the South Node is in Sag, and now Jupiter's just is the dispositor of the South Node, and it's in Sagittarius. And I have nothing against Sages, because Sages seem to think I have all this weird shit against them. I love Sages. I have tons of Sag in my chart. I have tons of Sag people in my life. But the energy of Sagittarius consciously is like a cult in the South Node, and especially with Jupiter in Aquarius. And as Jupiter's heading rapidly into Pisces here to meet with the same sign that Neptune's in, its home sign, the propaganda of $1.5 billion that the government passed through the bill, HR 1, is coming at us. And it's going to try and turn the narrative. And boy, oh boy, all these actors out there that had no jobs and no places to go, you're paying them to go create the movie that we all did not get to write the script for. And to be honest with you, even the elected officials that we elected in there, they're not even writing the script. And this is the only time in life that you have left this year to own your sovereign self with this new moon in Aries. Mount up in your truth of who you are and hold that truth, because it's going to be very difficult come these next couple months to work your way through the greatest age of deception there will ever be in our lives. And hence I called Age of Deception in 2016. Hence I called Rising Through the Darkness. And that's why next Thursday I'm doing Rising Through the Darkness Purgatory, to help you all understand the purgatory we're in, because it feels like purgatory. And to use history and to use astrology and use all the questions High Vibers gave me, and also have the ability to have Craig on full disclosure with ask questions in the live chat. And I'm going to do it just like I did Rising Through the Darkness in 2017. So I love you all. Hold the line. Don't get all MLM, makeup, astrology on me. Don't get all Instagram fucking little hit, which we actually proved in 2020 how many fucking astrologers watch my horoscope on High Vibe and then rewrite it out there. And we're getting hundreds of thousands to close to millions of likes that other people are copying out there. And I'm not just trying to say that. I have the fucking facts and all the shit. And 9 years of doing this shit every day and giving you this kind of info. And that shit was all proved in 2020.
Yeah, it was.
So don't fall for the glam show. Don't fall for your favorite celebrity right now who fucking is going to push you to go do something and put something in your arm. I don't know how much more time I have left before they take me off. But I'm willing to risk for the collective the truth. And that's where empowerment and that's where strength comes from. And it is weak right now. It is weak in yourself and anybody in this field to not hold that line right now. It is weakness. It is fear. It is coward. It's the biggest form of cowardice of all time. It's cowardly. And even though last night for 9 hours I could not even talk, with having every single tooth and every part of my roots to fix my gum disease scraped, literally top and bottom, bleeding, still show up for a horoscope last night, still even today, show up today. That I will never fall into cowardice. I will never fall for not showing up with strength. I will never fall for being a weak beta in this moment. We're in a world of betas. We're in a world of beta energy that is trying to act alpha. And the best, I don't want to name names, but we'll just use one. The best example I can use in the media today that is a beta that is trying to act like an alpha, and you can tell this person is just fucking dark and has fucking other agendas, is fucking Don Lemon. Don't end up like that guy. He won't talk about the truth. He'll spin every story that he's got to his own narrative or whatever the narrative that they want. And he did that all through the last 4 years, and he's doing it right now. This has nothing to do about his race. Talking about the soul of a person who's got no soul and got no courage and just reads a prompter. So, I'll see you all next Thursday, for Rising Through the Darkness Purgatory. You can go to highvibe.tv/pages/purgatory. Or if you're here on my Instagram, for my Instagram livers, you'll see it down below. Or if you're on YouTube, we'll put the link down below. And I have to do it on High Vibe. If I do it on YouTube, it's gone. And you don't have to be a member of High Vibe for it. I'm doing a deep astrology right now. That's something you have to be a member for, or my daily horoscopes. And I do want to end this with some light and just say thank you for the last 9 years, because it was all of you on YouTube that helped make all this possible. And all those that were watching me on Soul Garden and my Soul Garden family from 2008 and 9 and 10 and 11 that helped me get to the 9 years that I was on now. And I know that there are some of you out there that were part of Soul Garden. And I have to give Christopher Witecki so much of my gratitude for being my sensei and helping me get on this journey. I have to thank my parents for supporting me to become an astrologer, even when I think they looked at me like I was crazy, but they supported me and they loved me. And there's of course, I have to thank everybody here at High Vibe. And I have to thank everybody from science that helped me build the app in 2014 and beyond. There's a lot of people I have to thank. But no matter how many things and how many people have been there in assistance, I would have never got here if I didn't show up every day and just spit truth and didn't have the courage to do that. And any one of you watching this has that power. Because I tested it over 9 years. It didn't matter if I was on a date. It didn't matter if I was not feeling well, except for when I was like literally on my deathbed. But it didn't matter if I was on vacation. It didn't matter where I was at in the world. On tour. Anywhere I did a video. I tell people, I gotta go do a video. What? We're watching a movie. What? We're out here. What? We're doing this. I gotta go do the video. I'll be back in 30 minutes. I gotta go do a hotspot. I gotta go drive 5 miles to get the internet to go put it up because people need it today. If you're not willing to make risks in your life to do what you know you're supposed to do and be great and help the truth come out, then this new moon will remind you that you're a coward. And I only say that with love. The same way that the Wizard of Oz tried to help you see that the only way that the lion got its courage was to not be scared. And don't be in fear. And be careful of what you're allowing in that is cult-like. And this is a new kind of cult. Because it wears the greatest Little Red Riding Hood wolf in sheep's clothing outfit of all time, which is the woke narrative that our corporations and our government are wearing. I love you all. I'll see you soon.